Welcome to OpsTok, the podcast where we explore the intersection of operations, technology, and business excellence in manufacturing, logistics, supply chain, and industrial companies, featuring interviews with highly accomplished operators and owners, with your hosts Sahand and Tom. Presenting special guest Joaquin Soucheiron, founder of AR Experts, master in Toyota Production Systems, Kaizen, Jidoka, and Lean Production.
Joaquin's actually taught me quite a lot about manufacturing operations and his experience with Toyota and the German automotive market where he's currently at. So it was really interesting to learn. So I thought it'd be a great addition to OpsTok, where we talk about operations. So my co-host is Sahand.
Hey, hi. Good. I guess good day. Good morning. Good day.
Good day.
Yeah, really
I
nice.
don't want to know what time it is, but in your place, it must be illegal so early in the morning. Anyway, yeah. Fine.
No, we're good. We're good. Anyway, yeah, really nice to meet you, Joaquin. I'm Sahand, and I run Integral Software. We do custom software development out of Toronto, so on the Eastern Time Zone. And Tom and I, kind of connected last year over the course of working on a few projects together, and then we just had some really fantastic conversations about his past in operations and I'm a techie, and I'm always interested in learning about operations and sales. So Tom brings both of them together. So I became a fan of our talks, and then we just at some point we're like, we're having some great conversations about some really interesting things we've done in the past. Let's just go have it with more people, and that's that's OpsTok.
So Sahand,
anyway,
if you want,
super excited to have you.
Yeah, no, it's great. If you want, I have something for you. I mean, it's not that I prepare, but I do know. I do. There's a story I'd like to tell you about, which happened not far from here. If it's okay for you guys, which is a very insightful thing. It's a bit old. It's from the 1990s, but it's an extremely insightful story that hurts many of the German engineers. Okay, although I'm based in Germany, I live literally. So if I see through the window, I see literally the factory of the S-Class of Mercedes-Benz, okay? And the
Amazing.
Maybach, which is an even higher class. So the luxury cars of Daimler are built there. I can see it literally to the point that I don't need to read the newspaper to see that they do not get their supplies. I look through the window, it is not steaming, I know they're not manufacturing. I don't, I see it.
You don't need satellite imaging, you have it.
Exactly. I can see it immediately. So, and I'm very close to Stuttgart. I'm in a city called Böblingen, and the factory is in a place called Sindelfingen, which is let's say a regional train distance from Stuttgart. Another brand in Stuttgart is Porsche. And the story I will tell you today is about Porsche, not Daimler, but about Porsche. Okay. By the way, 200 kilometers away, Munich, BMW, Ingolstadt for Audi. So, I mean, basically, there were people in Michigan would not agree, but the rest of the universe claims that Daimler built actually the first automobile. Okay. You could argue whether Henry Ford built a four-wheeled and this one here was a three-wheel. You could argue that, but automobile, as in auto, like self-driving thing without horses, that was actually built here in the region of Stuttgart. Okay, so I come from Toyota myself. I look at the world through the Toyota glasses, but I work for Daimler as well in some projects, and I did some stuff for BMW, Audi, and the others. Okay, so I do know a bit what's going on here. Amazing. But the story today will be focused and based on Porsche, which is Zuffenhausen in Stuttgart, something like, probably 10 kilometers that way. Okay. Is that okay? Should we do
amazing? No, that sounds.
I think that's great. Maybe Joaquin, I think that was a great introduction. So maybe let's just talk about. So let's just jump in and say. So you say you're a product of Toyota. So tell us about that journey, and then let's talk about through the Toyota eyes when you got into the German automotive world. What have you seen? So tell us a little bit about your journey with Toyota first, maybe.
Yeah, let me start from the last part. My last assignment was at Daimler. Mm-hmm. It was a very, very nice job there. I was working for a department called Future Transportation, and I was in charge of looking for new business models for the van division. It was really, really great. And when I was there, I mentioned many times Toyota, just because it's A, my comfort zone, and B, a good school to do stuff, right? And to the point that sometimes I was prompted to, why do you speak so much about Toyota? And then I explained some stories, and it was very compelling stories that actually people bought in that sense, right? So as I said, I look at the world through the Toyota glasses, in the sense I'm always looking for continuous improvement things, and how can I do things better? How can I serve humans? You know, Toyota is a very much humane based business. You know, the employee and the user as in person is always at the head, at the mindset of the Toyota thing. So any Toyota production system tools does not make any sense if it does not serve a higher purpose, which is a human. Okay. So why do we do things? It's one of the learning points of the Toyota production systems, not the technology per se, but it should help somebody. Okay. And this is something I saw that in the line of over-engineering, which is Germany, sometimes, let me make the stereotype. Of course, I'm making a bit of a joke there, but let me take things to the extreme. I am less extremist than I talk, but I tend to speak in extremes to convey powerful messages. So if I say this is the line of over-engineering, please bear with me. It's like I could probably argue the same in the MIT, whatever, in the US, okay, Massachusetts, you know, so these kind of things, right? Now, so in the line of over-engineering, we embrace technologies and how things work, okay? And the why do we do that is a not so important question. And Tom, you had a post on that, the why, asking why. That would be a very, very important question that sometimes it's not so present in the German culture. Okay, of course I'm stereotyping, I repeat, but bear with me in that sense. So I learned as well that Porsche, which is making the most fancy machines that all of us would like to drive, and some of us can afford, some of us cannot. I'm not telling you to which group I belong. That's the only one. You know, if things go fine with my company Jidoka, then I'll be able to ride more than one Porsches. Okay, we're on the way to build to that moment. So I learned, you know, like a Porsche, there's a very compelling story that I typically tell, and that's within the journey of the automotive in Germany. I do realize that every brand and every company has a different culture, which is forged by its history, basically. Okay, so you cannot compare the history of Mercedes-Benz with BMW, with Audi, with Porsche, or even some big factories that we have of American brands like Opel, which is General Motors. Now not anymore, but it was born as a General Motors brand, or Ford in Cologne. Okay, so every manufacturing facility has different philosophies due to the history that is backing up this. You know, the history of every company is different, and that forged the different cultures. Right. And I realized that one of the companies here, one of the local companies, Porsche. You guys probably pronounce it Porsche, but in German they call Porsche. They pronounce the final E, so I'm gonna pronounce it like the Germans do. I might do it wrong also because I'm a national of Spain. I'm a native of Barcelona, by the way. Yeah.
Oh, amazing.
Anyway,
we got to talk about that some other time.
Oh, we'll do. We can, Barcelona. So I realized that Porsche was an extremely Toyota-based company, to the point that they had a subset of the company called Porsche Consulting, which were basically lean experts. They were applying TPS, Toyota Production Systems, for every single kind of industry you can imagine. Of course, they started with automotive companies. They started with Porsche themselves. So Porsche was consulting Porsche themselves, but they opened to other manufacturers, tier one suppliers, and they actually opened up to many companies that wanted to be lean. And by lean, I mean do the things that make sense and avoid the things that do not make sense. Okay, that will be my quick and dirty explanation of what lean means. Okay, just focus on what makes sense, which means what brings value, and avoid those things which do not bring value. Avoid mura, Japanese for waste. Good. So I started scratching in this Porsche culture, and why is Porsche so much Toyotized, right? And I got to know firsthand some information. Part of it is online, part of it is just not. What happened in 1992? That's the key date. Okay, 1992, where Porsche was let's say quite good reputation brand, making very nice automobiles. They had the 911, the older 911. They had probably, I'm not sure, 944 and 928, three models. Three. I forgot the other two. Anyway, three aging models, and they were really manufactured like in handmade cars in Zuffenhausen, the neighborhood of Stuttgart, where the factory is. And their engines were air-cooled engines, like the good old traditional air-cooled Porsche engines, probably Boxer engines. I'm not sure anyway. But the good old manufacturing of Porsche, still a very fun car to drive. But the models were aging, and there were some things that were starting not to look very good. And to make the long story short, the company was at the verge of bankruptcy, no more, no less. Okay, why did it happen? 3 aging models. You go to Arizona and to the dealership, you would have these models at the dealership getting sun for 3 years before they were sold. And am I going to buy $80,000 day, for those dollars in 1992? Am I going to buy a car that I know that has been getting sun for 3 years? It's kind of a good feeling kind of thing, right? 3 aging models, independently built. Every model did not share any platform with the other model, so it was 3 independent manufacturing things in an older factory. And there's the new CEO called Wendelin Wiedeking joining the company with the hope of turning around the company. And he starts to analyze the company. He opens the box. There's no money. Okay, this is called bankruptcy, basically. 3 aging models. Anything in the pipeline of design? No, nothing. Everything is empty. There's nothing coming up. Far away, there's a crazy guy doing a first project of something he's calling the Boxster, which happened to be a very, very good car at the end of the year. Okay, at the end of the story. But there's really, the pipeline is empty. Arizona cars getting sun and nobody buying them is not a good sign. Okay, how are sales in our markets? The biggest market that we have is the United States of America. How are sales in the US? Particularly bad, Mr. Wiedeking, the worker said. Why? Well, it's not our fault, Mr. Wiedeking. It's the fault of the American government. Okay, so we're not selling in America. It's not our fault. It's American government's fault. Can you explain me why? Well, because the American government just recently put a new tax for expensive cars. That's why Lexus is selling more and more. I mean, Lexus is selling more and more, and you're done. So it's not the American government's fault. It's like just blaming others,
Yeah.
I mean, blaming others, guys. It's in the book. It's in the book. It was not me. It was the woman. And the woman said, no, it was not me. It was a snake. Okay, that's in the book. That's in Genesis. Okay, so it's a very human thing, So we all blame it, But sometimes, guess what? It is our fault, and in this case, probably was your fault. I mean, you have this, like you live from the past, from your reputation, your Porsche, but if you don't do the right things, So nothing in the box, nothing in 3 aging models, nothing in the pipeline. Selling very, very badly in the United States, not even at break even, which means every day that goes by, you're burning cash, basically. Okay, let's go to our factories. Let's see how do we manufacture things. They go to the factory and they make a very interesting analysis. They take a random component from the assembly line, which is in a shelf, and the question is the following: how much is this component in that shelf before it is mounted into a car? That's the question, and the answer was something like 3 months. 3 months getting dust, obsolescence. You know the story. That's a Mura is not creating any value. Is you need to just bought it, you paid for it. It's not bringing anything. It's there. It's just getting dust. And I'm not going to get deeper into the why should you not have so much stock. Go by the book, and then you'll see why. And then, the next question was, okay, who is the best who is the best in the industry, and how much time is a component in the shelf of this best benchmark, okay, in the industry, in the shelf. It happens to be that the best is a company in Japan called Toyota for some reason. And the average of the component before it's being mounted is 9 hours.
Wow.
So we're exactly, wow, that's it. Comparison of just the order of magnitude of months with hours. It's like, should make you think, Mr. Wiedeking, please, you cannot compare. We do pieces of art and they do mass production. This is not compare. Yeah, cut the crap. Look, months, hours. We have a problem. We have a problem here. We do. Now, a big one. Big problems, big remedies, right? You need to tackle like a big thing with a big thing. You cannot put just an aspirin here for a big, a cancer. No, you need to cut, you need to do stuff, all right? So this is what we're going to do. We're going to fly to Japan, get the super expert of Toyota, fly him in. It doesn't matter how much it costs. We don't have money, but Mr. Wiedeking, his family invested money in the company. He was not making any money, no salary, until he would turn around the company, and then he would be paid in the future if EBIT is positive, a percentage of the EBIT. Disclaimer, Mr. Wiedeking, after this story, became for I think two years in a row the biggest, best paid executive in the surface of the planet. Okay, so things work.
Right.
This just a spoiler here. Just a spoiler here. What happened? So they fly in this guy and from Japan. They land from Japan in Manfred Robert Flughafen, the airport. And they say, look, to this Japanese expert, look, we can go now to Stuttgart where you will meet Mr. Piech and Mr. Porsche, so the historical owners of the company. He says, no, I want to go to factory. So basically, he doesn't care about the guys with the big tie. He wants to go to the factory because in the factory is where things happen, where the value is created or not created. Operations, right? He couldn't care less about the big tie guys. So they go to Zuffenhausen, where the factory is, and the Porsche engineers open the doors wide open. Welcome to our factory, very proudly saying, welcome to our factory. This is the headquarters of Porsche, right? Welcome to our factory. They open the doors. And that guy looks a lot of shelves, looks up and see, all the shelves left here, a lot of stuff put there, components here to the right as well, like going up. He sees the workers climbing like monkeys. He literally said, I saw like people climbing like monkeys, super ergonomically, grabbing parts here, almost falling down, everything dirty, messy, and a lot of components. And he says, no, you do not, no, this is not a factory. This is a warehouse. And of course, the Germans say, I'm afraid this is our factory. And the reaction was,
We've got work to do.
That's that. Yeah. Months of inventory.
Basically, the message is very clear. Look, he said, if this is a factory, you have a problem, like a problem with a big P problem. Okay, there is no way you can make money. There's not mathematical possibility that you can make money with this factory. It's impossible. Either you do as I say, or I go back immediately to Japan. Is that clear?
Right.
All right. And everybody is there. The new CEO, Wendelin Wiedeking, meeting, like the president, the CEO, meeting the owners of the company, Mr. Porsche, And what the guy says is kind of, a difficult truth and a difficult way of operating now. Because the first thing he says is, Mr. Wendelin Wiedeking, could you please grab me a flex? Look, a flex is a word you cannot relate to. A flex is a brand in Germany of I think it's called a rotary saw, like a saw that is actually turning. Like, how would you call this kind of tool?
Yeah.
It's a brutal tool, right? How would you call this? A rotary or like a turning saw, or how would you call that one?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you go to Greece to the Parthenon column and you can cut it, a grinder. Yeah,
it's
a brutal tool.
Okay. It's like a concrete cutter type of, because I've seen those. You could cut anything
with that. Yeah, you could cut anything. Just don't put your fingers, just in case. Okay, any freaking thing, right? So it's a brutal tool, and so please grab me a flex, and you hold the flex, Mr. Wiedeking, and I want you to cut this shelf at a height of 1.30 meters. You tell me the equivalent in inches, and imperial is your thing. 1.30 meters. That's the number. Mm-hmm. Okay. I was not in that meeting, but I can imagine that for the first time that day, Mr. Wendelin Wiedeking said, Entschuldigung, which means excuse me.
Excuse me.
You heard me right. Either you cut the shelf at a height of 1.30 meters, or I go back to Japan. That's the deal. Okay, that's kind of I don't know you guys, but if I would be Mr. Wendelin Wiedeking, I don't think I would have done it because everybody's looking and really it's like, am I going to cut that in front of everyone? What's going to happen here? Well,
wow.
Should I cut or not? Of course, you want me to cut, right? Otherwise, it wouldn't be fun, right? Guys, I cut. Okay.
Cut it.
I cut it now. I talk. Yeah. The hand, I cut it, right?
Yeah. Go for it.
Okay, that's what. Okay, of course, the guy cut it, and of course, what happens is like things fall. Okay, obviously, you cut. Okay, and things fall. Now, the millisecond after you cut things, they cut the shelf and things fall. Three things happen. Three very powerful things happened. The first thing that happened, from 1.30 meters, from the floor to 1.30 meters, which is if I was standing, that would be kind of this height. Mm-hmm. I can put components, literally, physically, I can. Now, from 1.30 meters to the ceiling, guess what? I cannot put any components.
Right.
See what I'm trying to get right now? Okay, I'm just cutting the physical possibility to store things. Okay.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Because guys, and this is part of the Sahand and Tom, part of the learning today. That there's a law of nature that says gravitational law is a law of nature. If I open my hand, this thing falls. Okay. If it's raining outside, things fall. If the sun is shining, it will fall. If it's Sunday, it falls. And if it's Tuesday, it falls. Something that always happens is a law of nature. Naturgesetz, ley natural, no matter the language, okay? Something that always happens is a law of nature. There's another law of nature that says warehouses are always full.
Right.
And that's mathematics. It always happens. There's only one way to have an empty warehouse, which is
to not allow it. Yeah.
Not having the warehouse.
Yeah.
All right. And in the moment you can store, I'm not saying it's a turnaround. It's not a turnaround yet, but it's stopping the bleeding. All right. And this is the first thing that happened. Second thing that happened is 1.30 meters, as I said, this height. If I would be standing, I'm not very tall, but I could look through. Look, there is a factory at the other side. There's people that I can communicate with the 2 eyes that God gave me. I don't need any fancy equipment here, right? Here's my tool here. I have a question. Help me be helped. Visual control, guys. 0 computers needed. That's the second thing. And the third thing that happened, probably the most powerful one, actually, no, the most powerful one of the things that happened, the millisecond after he cut the shelf, was that the company is under financial stress, right? We were bankrupt. We need to turn around the company, and we flew in the Japanese guy. Now, to express the people in your company, everybody, the workers of the company, that things need to be changed and we need to do different, and things are going to change for good, hopefully, but this is a revolution and we need to really do different. Otherwise, we continue digging the hole, okay? You can communicate this in 2 different ways. You can put it in the bulletin boards, like you can put it in the coffee corner. You can put a PDF or an Excel, whatever, or like a Word document that says the new director of the company, the new CEO, Mr. Vendelin urges you to cut costs because the company blah 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 blah. Now that paper in the coffee corner, the next day is a bit lower. I don't know why. The day after is a bit lower, and in the 4th day somebody comes, perhaps let's throw it away, and no impact, basically. Yeah. So this is one way to communicate. The other way to communicate is to force the new CEO to cut a shelf at a height of 1.30 meters in front of the owners of the company and the new CEO. The first time that you see these people in your life, CEO to cut the shelf, I repeat, the first day in your life after 30 years in the company that you see the owners of the company. I think the message is quite clear with the second way of communicating. Don't you think, guys?
Absolutely.
It's amazing.
It's amazing how being an executive, having that impact by being on the factory floor, and then doing something as dramatic as cutting the shelf can have for the factory.
Message went through. That's clear. Okay, for good. Porsche, all my respects to Porsche, is like a fantastic company. Now, so after these things happen, there's you can imagine all the discussion, and then the Japanese guy urges Mr. Vendelin to grab him a shopping cart. Okay, shopping cart. For the second time, Mr. Vendelin probably said, Entschuldigung, a shopping cart now? Okay, anybody with a Deutschmark, the currency before €1, like they get a supermarket, they bring a car, And then the guy says, look, can you please put these components on the floor into the shopping cart? So they fill the shopping cart with components. I want you to use, in the manufacturing of your 3 aging models, use these components, okay? And when the shopping cart is empty, not before, not after, you buy more. How many? As many as it fits in the shopping cart. Because you put one more, it will fall. All right? Look what's happening now. You'll see immediately what I'm going now. You buy, you use them until it's empty, then you buy again. What's happening here? How do you call this?
It's Kanban.
This is a Kanban. It's a Kanban. A Kanban. The first ever implemented Kanban at Porsche was a shopping cart of the supermarket with one currency, like the coin of the €1, one Deutschmark. Okay. So again, 0 computers. Everybody can understand. When do you buy? When it's empty. How much do you buy until it's full? Guys, it's an automatic thing. It's so intuitive. And the moment you put a Kanban is the moment you start, guess what? Pulling and being lean. And there's 0 computers here. Okay? Please, before technology, learning point, understand what you're doing and why. See why you do it. See how, both how and why. And then, and only then, if you can automate it, yeah, feel free. Of course, you should. I mean, if you could, but first thing, understand what you're doing and do it manually. I would strongly recommend you that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can imagine the evolution of. Yeah,
I'm going to interrupt you here for a second because this is amazing, and we and I've said this before, Tom. You've heard it, but in the world of software, we use a lot of these concepts from the Toyota manufacturing system, and what you just said is so powerful and so amazing. First of all, the why component, but also the fact that you just don't need to automate it. Do everything manually first, then automate, because the worst thing you can do is put a really, really amazing engine on a boat without having picked the direction, and then turn on the automation engine, and the boat will go. Where it's going, who knows? And how productive are you on land? Are you on water? Who knows? But so that's an amazing insight there for sure. Sorry for interrupting. That was just getting me too excited. Go ahead.
It builds exactly on that point. So thank you for it's a right on interruption, and yeah. So making things because I can is not. I mean, why? Because you can. I mean, of course you can, but who cares? Who cares? Literally, if you do not help somebody else, and if it's not a higher purpose, why bother? It's even more muda. It's like you're going to be wasting resources for nothing, basically. Okay. But you can imagine the evolution of this. I mean, try to extrapolate this thing of cutting the shelf, which is message taken. Many people left the company, by the way, because they could not. Yeah, accept.
It's a change.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, this is too much. And yeah, it's not invented here. It comes from Japan, from the Far East. You know what this? A company called Toyota. Toyota played with Porsche here. Right? This kind of imagine the cultural moment here. They left. Okay, that's fine. I mean, among other reasons, we're in this situation maybe because you were there. I mean, anyway. So this is the beginning of the turnaround, the inflection point where Porsche started to be more lean and conscious, and they did manage to create this lean culture, not only the production, but from the preconception of the cars, the automobiles, and until the after sales, which is also Toyota. Toyota is not only doing Toyota production systems or the lean in the actual production. It comes from the preconception of the car until all the way to after sales and everything, right? And again, we're doing these Kanbans, and if you see, here's the paradox. People think that Toyota production systems are about not having stocks, which is wrong, because a Kanban, by definition, is a stock, but it's a controlled stock. Remember, that's the difference. If you put one more piece, it will fall. That part that it's a controlled stock starts smelling like a pool and a lean thing. Okay? Now, to make it even more perfect, if I could be in an ideal world, the mantra should be flow if you can, pull if you must. Okay, that should make you think.
But not push.
Because the goal, exactly, push never. Push. There's some instances where you actually need to push. Sometimes you might need to push, that's fine. But more often than not, that will be the pull. But if you could, you should actually flow, which means one piece flow, everything moving at the same speed, which is probably close to impossible, but get as close as you can to that. So pull if you must. And the moment you pull, you're working on lean with a very controlled stock, which is called a Kanban. Okay, so applying this logic, to make the long story short, that thing worked out. And 1993, the Boxer came to the streets, and then the Cayenne, and which was a SUV, which was a sin. No, we'll never do that. And then Porsche, funny story as well. Porsche came with a concept to do hybrid cars like Toyota, and the purists. Look at this. The purists of Porsche, those customers very proud of Porsche. How can we do that? A hybrid car, this is not in the Porsche DNA. I know it's not. Go to the Zuffenhausen Museum, the Porsche thing, and you'll see a car built in 1900, so 1900. It's a hybrid car. It happens to be the first ever built hybrid car built by, guess what, Ferdinand Porsche.
Wow.
Surprise, not bad for not being Porsche, not bad for not being Porsche. The first ever hybrid, was not built by Toyota. No.
He was ahead of his time.
So a lot of misconceptions here. Anyway, Wendelin Wiedeking, all my respects. The next 20 years, every single decision he made was fantastically good. He turned around the company. He became the best paid executive for 1 or 2 years in a row. I don't know, whatever. Fantastic, every positive. The company is like they are extremely lean. I've seen the factory in Zuffenhausen. I've seen Toyota factories. I can tell you that the Zuffenhausen factory of Porsche is more Toyota than Toyota themselves. I mean, the Germans implementing a Japanese system. Germans, when they do one thing, they do it really well. Okay? Let's give them credit for that. they're fantastic. They're really fantastic. I mean, I've been here in this country for many years, and I learned a lot, and I have a lot to thank this country. And I should really say, when they do things, they do it the right way. Okay, so when they put there all this, they do it. And Porsche. Today is as lean as Toyota, if not more. Okay, it's a fantastic company which I respect a lot, not because of the nice products, that also, but the way it's structured. And I would strongly recommend you, if you could, to do a visit to the Zuffenhausen factory. Having said that, Porsche was bought by Volkswagen, and I do not know whether things are the same now, because Volkswagen and Toyota have different philosophies. So I really don't know. I'm talking about what happened then, 1992 through, let's say, 2010, probably something like this. Okay.
Well, I think, Joaquin, you open up a great point, because Toyota being like the industry standard for manufacturing. I would say, first of all, automotive is the standard for manufacturing, right? So as everybody that's in the manufacturing business, that's studying engineering, we always look up to the automotive manufacturers as like the best in class, because they're doing high volume, very complex machinery, right?
Exactly, for good reasons. And they might be now in one. I was talking to somebody of BMW, and they wanted to do the diesel and the gasoline and the hybrid and plug-in hybrid, and even hydrogen cars in one line, only one line. Okay. By the way, Zuffenhausen is only one line as well, and they do all the models in that, the sports cars in that line. And the reason, building on what you said, Tom, the reason why we look at automotive and in this case at Toyota Production Systems, it's not because nothing to do with yin and yang and Asian philosophy and Zen and no, it has to do with common sense. TPS has to do with common sense. It just makes sense. So do things that add value and avoid things that do not add value. It's as simple or as difficult, I don't know, as that. Okay.
Well, you know what they say about common sense, right? It's not so common. So it is as easy as that or as difficult as that. So I'm with you.
Yeah, that's the thing. And there's go ahead.
And exactly that, because there's a lot of companies that try to copy the Toyota production system into their processes, and they fail miserably.
Why, Tom?
Mm-hmm.
Because they apply a set of tools. You can go to any factory of Toyota in many countries, and they follow the Toyota production systems, obviously, so you can copy everything. Now, Toyota production system is not a set of tools. You will fail if you because you would go for the technology, you would do the Kanban without knowing why. You need to, it's a way of mind. You need to understand underlying problems and the understanding solution to that given problem that you saw. Okay, Kanban in that case, okay? But again, it was a shopping cart. But no, if you go to the tool, you automate it immediately, and you don't even know why, and then you fail. And then you see, I told you this wouldn't work. This is, this Japanese thing doesn't work. But that's the wrong thing. You did it wrong, actually. Mm-hmm. It's not a set of tools. It is not a set of tools.
Mm-hmm. And I think like that's so common, especially in manufacturing, is we get excited about the tools and we forget the why. And I see it. Boy. I've seen it a lot with a lot of factories or even just taking some of the tools and trying to apply them, and again missing the importance of the why.
Yeah, I mean the why, and one thing that was so powerful that Joaquin, you shared about that story is also the commitment of management. Not only just management, but the ownership and everybody, right? Kind of saying, yeah, we're committed to this. This is the new way. This is how we're going to change the culture, right?
Yeah. Sahand, that's exactly what happened back in 1982. The problem is that if you go to a company like any of the other makers now, and you come to revolutionize their production systems and go TPS to the core, they will say, no need. Unfortunately, sometimes having a crisis is an opportunity to change. You cannot go to a BMW and tell the guys, you're doing it wrong. You can do, oh, come on, we're doing, and they don't do it wrong. They just, they implement something called their schöpfungsorientierte Produktionssystem. Wow, look at that. Without the feeling of my teeth falling, I managed to say that word. I repeat, look at that. Der schöpfungsorientierte Produktionssystem. I was talking to this engineer, and then he told me they don't do lean. This is Japanese. We wouldn't do that. What do you do? I asked him. We do our schöpfungsorientierte Produktionssystem. And they said, okay, great. What does it mean? He looks left, there's nobody. He looks right, nobody back. It means lean. You can call it whatever you want. It's the same thing. But they call it the Mercedes production systems. I bet you, so it's okay. It's the same thing because it makes sense. Now the level of impregnation of TPS is different and it differs. So some are just using the tool, some are believing on it a bit, and people like Porsche, they really leave it. It's in their genes now, basically. Okay, so and there's also a beautiful epilogue. Oh, sorry, Tom. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, I think like you mentioned that during the changeover and I think this applies to really whether it's digital transformation, whether it's implementing TPS, any of these big, large initiatives through a company. You mentioned that like some people like they end up leaving, and I think that's also a good lesson is that at the end of the day, you need the ownership, the leadership, everybody committed. And it's okay because some people won't go on the journey, right? And that's okay too, because in order for it to work, everybody has to buy into it because so many of these large initiatives fail otherwise. Yeah.
So maybe some sort of natural selection, I guess. I don't know. Yeah. So, but it does need the support of the people, and nobody's sabotaging it. Otherwise, it's not going to work. That's clear. Yeah. So you might find a lot of cultural resistance, because not invented here basically. And if things are going fine, why should I change? This kind of thing, So maybe sometimes a crisis and then tabula rasa, you start over. It's probably what makes more sense, right? So, and there's I wanted to comment on let's say that 90% of the story told you is true. 10% I did a bit of Hollywood, if you want. Okay, just put some makeup here and there, but it is in essence it is true. It is true, and I have a couple of anecdotes that would corroborate. Not for today, when we're meeting over the beer, I will tell you this couple of anecdotes that corroborate that what I said is true. Because there's some testimonials that I do have my sources. Now there's a story's over. Okay, the end. Okay, now there's an epilogue to the story, which is a beautiful epilogue. And if it's not strictly historically correct, excuse me, and but take the story, take the beautiful story behind. In any case, it might be even true. In the 1950s, that's the epilogue to the story of the Wendelin Wiedeking years at Porsche. Okay, the turnaround to a TPS kind of thing. In the 1950s, Japan was destroyed after the war. It was devastated, the country.
Right.
And there was this company doing sewing machines, like they were doing like sewing machines is called, like
so yeah,
which wanted to do something for their country. It was a Japanese company. They wanted to to produce something that could actually help the industrialization of Japan, and they got help from a German company to turn their machines and their know-how from sewing machines to automobiles, okay, which is something like tractors and power, like engines that would help actually the country to be reconstructed faster, right? Instead of using horses, you use automobiles and and tractors and these things. And this happened. So this German company helped this Japanese company to transform. The name of the German company is Porsche, and the name of the Japanese company is Toyota. And what happened in the 90s, it looks like a historical favor that the Japanese gave the Germans back, which I think is a beautiful story that tells really good things about Japanese culture and Japanese honorability and honor. And I think it's a beautiful epilogue to the story. And I want to believe it's true.
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool.
Very cool. Very cool. No, it's an incredible story. Thank you for sharing that with us, Joaquin. I mean, it's just it's amazing how many of these stories exist in manufacturing once you really get into it, and all the history and culture that goes into making the products that we see around us all the time. There's a lot of things that a lot of consumers don't see. Like I'm feeling blessed that my whole career has been like an episode of how it's made, because I get to go into all these different factories and see how things are made, and then there's always a story behind it, and there's culture, and it's just like the funnest part of the job is actually seeing it, because all these things, all these factories at some point were garages, right? They started out small and then they build into these big factories. So there is an evolution that kind of goes through the process and how they arrive where they're at today.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. And it's just amazing to hear the background story behind some of the values and some of the methodologies that we live by on a day-to-day basis in the lean startup, the tech side of the world, right? So it's amazing. It's and then you do also see organizations that lose touch of the why and just implement the methodology, and you've got all sorts of burned down charts that go nowhere, but hey, we have charts for it, right?
But Sahand,
right.
let me tell you, let me tell you a couple. I'm going to build on that, Sahand, on just what you said. There's a few things that are, so if you do not understand really what's going on and the why, okay, what Tom said, you might miss very important things. If you go to Zuffenhausen, and I'm talking before the merger with Volkswagen, okay, before that, when Porsche was a genuine Toyota-based kind of production machine, okay, the first thing the two things strike me, like wow, I didn't expect that. The first thing is that the stocks that they had of car bodies, okay, like Toyota production system and stocks, it didn't kind of, but why do they have body stocks? Because the bodies are built in Austria by another company. Okay, they do not have stamping. It's too small. The manufacturing of Porsche was far too small to justify the cost of the machine. So they're stamping from outside, and they do put those stocks to prevent line stops, basically, in that sense, right? Because you need to know where it's not about avoiding stocks. Again, it's knowing when and which stocks to have. Seriously. So if you go by the book, by the tool, no stocks, no stocks, no. This is not the point.
Right.
Okay. Know when to put the stocks. Okay. Know how to do it. And another thing that struck me was in the when they were doing the seats, the leather of the seats, they were literally sewing the leather in Stuttgart, Zuffenhausen, which is the most expensive city of the most expensive country in the world. I would expect sewing in Southeast Asia, not in China. China would be too expensive already. In Cambodia, maybe, but no, in Stuttgart. Why do they do that there? The most expensive, you know what I mean? Is this sewing? Well, because the seat, the leather is you're going to put your behind on it. I mean, you're going to sit every day. No compromise there. We're going to pay times 10, times 50. I don't care. You need to know where not to compromise. So if you go by the book, by the tool, you might do wrong in those things as well. Okay.
Right.
Not to mention that in the assembly line, you would have this undone, this falling cords, yellow and red. You can literally stop the factory if there's something wrong. Because if you see a mistake, you better acknowledge it soon, stop the factory, as expensive as it is. But if you do not stop the factory, you're going to manufacture with a mistake, and the cost will be times 100 then. You need to recall the car. Right? These kind of things, which are non-intuitive at first, but if you look at it holistically, which, by the way, belongs to TPS, having a long-term, a long-scope perspective of many years and the whole chain, if you don't manage that, you see that's culture, that's philosophy. If you don't manage that and you focus on the tools, you're going to fail. Because there are things that sound, at the first analysis, counterintuitive, but hell, they make sense in the world, right?
I think stop to fix is a perfect example. The stop to fix, a lot of companies struggle with that concept, and because it is, when you are in the role of production, you measure production and how many units you produce per hour, and you know exactly the dollar amount for downtime. So let's say you have a big assembly line and it shuts down for an hour. That's hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars that you're losing. So the whole stop to fix philosophy, right, which from a quality perspective and a big picture is literally like the best thing you can do for yourself. But it is like something that I see companies struggle with tremendously. And honestly, outside of Toyota, I'm yet to see it implemented really well, because it's because like everything they do is to prevent the line from shutting down. And the whole idea is you shut it down, you fix the problem, before you continue making a mistake.
If you realize you're defining in a very interesting way, push.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it is a push. I mean, and let's face it, there's a lot of pushing in the industry, also in Porsche. But having said that, so there's push because at some point you need to. I mean, you need to scale and things, and you need to you cannot have the machines idle. But better put the machines at 80% than at 120, because if you overburn the machine, it will burn, it will crash, it will even worse. Okay, so first thing, so better have this buffer and do Heijunga, level out production if you can, and which makes sense, right? I mean, but yeah, there's some other factories where they tell you, no, put it at 120 because you need to. The more you sell, the more the better it is. You do not put a screw in the Porsche factory that has not been sold yet. I repeat, you do not start a car that has not been sold yet. Principle one. Second principle: every car in itself, we don't do cross-selling here, is profitable in itself as a unit. We're not going to undersell one for the sake of production and thing. No. This is Porsche. I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing. It smells good to me, but this is how we do it. Every car is in itself profitable, and you don't start a car that has not been sold yet. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I don't know how true this is, but there's a major automotive manufacturer out of Detroit. You can guess which one of them, but that one was they would actually run like their small sedans at a loss, and make up the margins on the big trucks. So
On the
like,
trucks, yeah.
it's you know like yeah, it makes you wonder. So every time they would make a small sedan, they would lose money on it. Like
Yeah, but they need to have the machines busy. That's probably why, you know, it's like yeah, they need to have the machines busy. But it's, I mean, it probably also works in a way, but I don't know. Just I think I find the Paul more elegant, right? Yeah. Of course, you're at the mercy of. I mean, the beautiful thing in that factory was that there was no shelves. By the way, now the components and Porsche are nine hours as well. Okay, on average as well. So same thing as Toyota before.
Wow.
So that's really a lean. Now in that fact, in the assembly line, there's no shelves. Basically, no shelves. And there's an EVA coming, a robot that comes with a tool and the screw. You know, so the car comes in the assembly line at a very small speed, but it goes like it's flowing. Screw tool, you put the screw with the tool, and then the robot removes it goes away without, you know, so you get everything at the right time, at the right sequence, and at the right moment. Basically, it's just in time and just in sequence what they do, including the tools. You know, it's a fantastic thing. Plus, you cannot make mistakes. I mean, screw, hole, tool. I mean, it's impossible to make a mistake there. So, you know, you can perform very high without having to stress yourself much. And the workers at Porsche did not look very stressed to me. They looked extremely efficient, happy, with possibilities for Kaizen, continuous improvement. They were rewarded on that, and when they were on the assembly line, they were just you know there and fine. You know, they didn't look stressed to me, and they do beautiful machines, extremely profitable, and they get paid. I know that more than other workers around.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I'd love to at some point, maybe on a subsequent call, talk about the automation aspect and some of those items as well, because I really value what you mentioned here, which is the why and do it manually first. There is a lot that can be achieved by being smart, knowing about what you're doing, and then being smart about it rather than just applying, you know, a blanket automation to things. But I would love to talk about these tools at some point as well. But before and I think we should probably sort of conclude a little bit, but I wanted to, because you're just like, these stories are so amazing, and you know, it just sounded like the perfect like a case study or a guest lecture at a business school. I you know, it's been a long time since those days, but I really missed it. So it was really great to hear you talk about this story, and it was just so engaging. Any books or any concepts you would recommend to folks who are listening or watching, that, you know, some of these stories or some of the core concepts would come out of? Maybe the Toyota production system. What's the best book you can read on it?
The one I think is Liker. I think that's the name of the author. I believe it's called the 14 Toyota Principles or something like this. This is the one I would recommend, and it tells you two stories on the side. So it's not only the 14 principles. Liker, could it be, Tom? Can you confirm Liker? I'm not sure now. Anyway, for the Toyota Principles, or 14 Toyota Principles, you can even find that book in of course in Amazon, but in Wikipedia even, you know, you get the list of the 14, and there's two bonus kind of chapters. One on Lexus, how Lexus came into being, you know, how Lexus appeared, and it's very interesting. And the Prius is a fantastic case where in the 1980s, after the oil crisis of the 70s, the automotive was like, it was a money printing machine, you know, like a machine of printing money moments in the 1980s. So it was too comfortable. People were making money, and Toyota puts artificially the company into a crisis, like a artificial crisis, to force people to think. Because if things are easy, you don't think, right? And what happened after that? Imagine there's a scarcity, and imagine things, you know, what can we do, and what can be the next technology? And guess what? Prius came from this kind of mentality. This is a beautiful story as well, to fake a crisis, to force people to, you know, to basically motivate people to think, right? I mean, yeah. Because if you do things too perfect and you have many buffers, people will use the buffer and not doing it. Just, you know, the student syndrome, or, you know, just going to be lazy. And, you know, it's good to have sometimes an apparent less flexibility to force the people in the line to cope with the deadlines and motivate them to do right, and these kind of things, you know. So yeah, you know, again, the holistic approach of things. And
amazing.
Yeah, so the 14 Principles of Toyota, my book.
That is awesome.
Sure.
Thank you for sharing that. That's fantastic. I'm totally going to buy it and read it right away. That sounds great. Even the forcing a crisis to get moving. That's amazing. It's like, experiments, and a lot of it's been proven that, once you set a deadline, you'll do things. And if you set the deadline, let's say we're going to just, read a book. You set your deadline for 2 months, you wait until the end of the 2 months, and then in 2 days you jam it, and get it done. Or if you can set the deadline in a week from now, you'll do the same thing. So I love that part of the story as well.
Yeah, and if you're Spanish like me, even later than that, we're notorious for being great.
You enjoy life instead. It's all good.
Yeah. Well,
we'll talk about that some other time. I'd love to meet up at some point. I'll be in your neck of the woods in the summer, so we'll connect offline and talk about that as well.
Yeah, Sahand, thank you very much for your time, and it's really been a pleasure to talk to you, Tom, to use it as well. And yeah, let's meet soon. Yeah, I'll be very happy to ping pong with you. And the next time I'll expect to listen more, and you teach me, because I'm sure I learned a lot from Tom already, and Sahand from you. I'm sure you're an encyclopedia. I like to open the pages of your brain, and please enlighten me with many things. I'm sure you can be of great help to me as well.
You are too kind. It's been just such a pleasure sort of connecting with you, meeting you, and listening to that amazing story and the epilogue. So yeah, really, really great. And we'll do this again, 100%. Really, really appreciate your time. And Tom, thank you for the introduction. This is fantastic.
Yeah, thank you so much for being on OpsTok. We really appreciate it, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Take care, guys.
Bye.